Melbourne rides half yours into the history books, the first woman to win the Caulfield Melbourne Cups double. Into horse racing folklore after becoming just the second female jockey to win a Melbourne Cup. 10 years after Michelle Payne created history, Melbourne rode the Australian-bred Half Yours to a famous victory at Flemington. She also becomes the first female to complete the Caulfield Melbourne Cups double.
Tonight, Half Yours, all hers. Jamie Melham wins the Melbourne Cup, making history in the process. Good evening, I'm Greg Jennett with you from Ngunnawal country and acknowledging others with connection to the lands of the ACT. This is ABC News. Jamie Melham has ridden into horse racing folklore after becoming just the second female jockey to win the Melbourne Cup. 10 years after Michelle Payne created history, Melham rode the Australian-bred Half Yours to a famous victory at Flemington. She also becomes the first woman to complete the call at Oaks Day.
Strictly business to win the Group 1 VRC Oaks in what was just her fourth race start. Racegoers at Flemington were treated to a day of sunshine as Ladies' Day was in full swing.
The umbrellas and ponchos needed on Melbourne Cup Day were left at home as the sun shone at Flemington Racecourse.
I thought I'll be the flower and the butterflies are following me.
On a day dedicated to women, racing garb took centre stage.
Nobody does fashion better than Flemington, Melbourne Cup Carnival.
With some outfits months in the making and practicality out the window.
When the wind gets up it's quite difficult to hold on.
The youngest racegoers were dressed to impress, and for those old enough, there was money on the line.
I won maybe $3 or something, not much. It's all the fun and you meet so many people.
Day 3 of the Melbourne Cup Carnival is all about the ladies, but this year the men weren't easily outdone in the fashion stakes.
We're just having fun with colour.
Freedom, confidence, just be yourself.
With final bets placed, the feature race of the day got underway. The favourite, Get a Good Feeling, looked to have timed her run well.
It's Get a Good Feeling, about 3/4 of a length in front of the Pearls.
Before the Ballarat-based Strictly Business found some room on the outside and kicked to victory.
She comes away, John Allen for Tom Carberry. It's a famous win, 3 lengths.
John Allen weaving his way to the front after holding back in second to last place with just 600 metres to go.
Unbelievable, what a filly. It's a buzz, it's the biggest buzz I've ever had in my life.
The 3-year-old, the most inexperienced filly in the field. A win in the $1 million 167th running of the Oaks, coming in just her 4th start. Erin Marsicovetere,
Stakes. The Melbourne Cup Carnival has come to a close with jockey James McDonald winning the Group 1 Champion Stakes. On board the Chris Waller-trained Via Sistina, the champion who produced a remarkable ride as more than 65,000 drenched racegoers brave the wet and windy Flemington conditions. Saluting to yet another Champion Stakes, the powerful pairing of James McDonald and Via Sistina yet again producing magic.
100 metres to go. She's got the class and she's got the legs, the stamina to win.
Hitting the final straight, Via Sistina and McDonald seized their moment.
Via Sistina getting nice and close for James McDonald now.
And it marked a 50th Group 1 win for McDonald and trainer Chris Waller.
It's an honour to be working with him. And it makes my job and perhaps his job a bit easier.
She's an absolute pleasure to ride, and they just prep him up beautifully. Waller and his team, and yeah, she was cool today.
A 12th Group 1 win in the bag, the 8-year-old mare confirming her place as a star of the turf. A soaking track changed some race plans.
Our sporting arena is outdoors, so that's what we have to deal with.
On a wet and wild Melbourne spring day.
We've had 13 millimetres since 9 a.m. and it just won't let up, so genuine heavy conditions out there.
The forecast wouldn't dampen the spirits of thousands of punters as they closed the Cup Carnival. Fashion, fascinators and umbrellas showered Flemington.
It is shocking here to say the least, but nonetheless the races roll on.
When the racing stopped, global DJ sensation Fisher kept the party going. and turned Flemington into a festival.
It's a dream come true, and now I'm here at the races. I got my own race, mate.
Edge taken. Daniels for through. Bullseye.
That is unbelievable.
The Brisbane Lions bludgeon their way to back-to-back.
Well, this match is coming alive.
Hello and welcome to Offsiders. I'm Abby Jelmy. We're only one day into the Melbourne Spring Racing Carnival and already a star has emerged. Mark Zahra has had his share of ups and downs in racing, but his Derby efforts yesterday rank among the finest. Zahra powered to a record equalling 4 wins, the last of which was the Victoria Derby.
Get a good feeling with 50 metres to go. Is racing clear and won it by a length and a half and dialed down long. Zoo Sensation joined and headed by Wardy. Wardy wins and a half. Zoo Sensation.
Wardy bowling them over. Mark Zahra celebrating yet again.
10 Tyrus is pounding away, and 10 Tyrus a spectacular win.
Yep, you guessed it. It's Mark Zahra.
They already signal and they're racing in the Derby at the 1400 metres, and Mark Zahra is going to try and take luck completely out of the equation and lead all of the way in the Derby. 400 metres to go. Zahra sitting pretty. 100 to go. Fritzy's 10th. Left 3 quarters Arcora. Observer's holding them. He's the stronger. He's the winner. Observer won the Derby.
Wow, Observer from start to finish, simply brilliant with Mark Zahra on board for win number 4 on the trot.
Phenomenal, what a day, and we have so much racing to unpack and so much happening in the world of sport. It's a pleasure to have your company. It's also a pleasure to have the company of our panel. I'm joined by Bharat Sundaresan, Claire Lindop and Quentin Hull. Team, what a week. But I do need to start by saying, Bharat, is there anything more offensive to you than a black and white racing code? You wouldn't have been at Derby Day, surely.
I saw a lot of people who were at Derby Day and they looked at me very funny. Look, when I came to this country, Abby, they said, oh, there's a dress code with cricket. I'm changing that slowly. Let's see where we are in a few years' time.
But truly, do you take any interest in racing?
I think it's part of my understanding of Australian culture. And one thing I have learned is it's as much part of Australian culture as cooking on the barbecue, talking about whether to break awkward silences and just saying, it's the day for it. Or, you know, going to the hardware store more than you do the grocery store. So I think it's just part of it. And this is the first year I'm trying to get into it anyway.
I'm so excited for your Melbourne Cup tips and how you've come across those, because I think you do pick a winner somehow. A lot of Australians do, and if there's ever a way that you can just point at one, I think the Cup Day is it. But Claire, we were just talking there about Mark Zahra and his efforts. I mean, some jockeys grow up dreaming of 1 winner on Derby Day, let alone 4.
He's really in the zone, isn't he, Mark Zahra? He was riding for some of the best trainers that we have, and the culmination of preparation before this week, for us as riders and racehorse trainers, week of Flemington, it's like a grand final week. So to produce your best, and this week is what you always want to try and do as a big athlete, and he's clearly in the zone yesterday. He was riding spot on.
And Quentin, you were at the track yesterday and managed to see him?
Gorgeous day, and like you, decided to wear the black. I knew Bharat was going to be on, so
we got the memo.
I thought we'll be able to contrast. But look, more than 80,000 fans, 80,000 fans at Flemington, and the conversation continues. The border wars in racing, with $15 million up for grabs in Sydney and only $7 million at the traditional great day of Australian racing. It's got a lot of people talking, and it's the time of year for it, isn't it?
You mentioned that talking. We obviously spoke about Zahra then and his form. He would be the informed jockey in Australia. But if you're going to talk about the best jockey in the world, that's James McDonald. And as you mentioned, he chose to be in Sydney for the Golden Eagle, $10 million in the one race. And it was that age-old combination of Waller, McDonald on the winner there in Autumn Glow. Now, she has won 8 straight, and already people start thinking, hang on, a mare, Chris Waller, with consecutive wins, surely we don't have another Winx on our hands. Now, she won 33 straight, so maybe not, but it was a phenomenal day.
She is the next superstar. So that's 8 in a row now for Autumn Glow. That's 5.2 mil. That was the winner's share of the $10 million that went up for grabs in what is a 4-year-olds only race over 1,500 metres, and it's got so big they've taken it from Rosehill to Randwick to try and again cash in on basically the flow-on from the Everest, getting all these young fans to racing. But just as VRC Melbourne seems to be ready to go on the sunset after back-to-back Cox plates, he's got another mare about to take on the world.
I think it was more the decision actually that James wanted to go and ride the mare Autumn Glow than necessarily thinking about the prize money. He rides for Walla. Walla had 11 horses racing at Derby Day at Flemington. I don't necessarily think it was like... I think he just wanted to stick with the horse and where that's going. I mean, a couple of starts ago, he came down to Melbourne, James McDonald, and rode in the Turnbull to stay with VRC, who did win the Cox Plate, but he wanted to ride Autumn Glow on the Silver Eagle.
Which says enough.
Yeah, so I think that's more about the horse for people like James McDonald and really sticking with that animal that you know and you love and respect and want to help guide through its races. So for me, 86,000, I think the record was yesterday, and people are going to remember the Derby winners more than that. History will keep that Group 1 status of the Derby. But there is an argument that Derby might need something a little bit more, and we had this conversation on air yesterday.
So how does it need to adapt? Like, obviously Victoria Derby and the Cup Carnival have such a steeped history, and it's what attracts so many internationals to come and try to win these races, not necessarily the prize money, but it is something that potentially we're going to have to see these Melbourne races put more money on the table in order to compete with Sydney. Well,
as Claire was mentioning yesterday, the 3-year-old 1,600 metre race in Melbourne is worth more than the 3-year-old classic.
The Guineas, which is still a very good race at Melbourne Racing Club. It's a $3 million race. Derby's worth $2 million race. I mean, it's still a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But if we made it 2.5 and had a bonus for a double or something, let's sort of just reinvigorate the Derby day. I mean, VRC have done a great job to reinvigorate the last day of their 4-day carnival, so maybe it's something a little bit now to look at. Traditionally, Derby Day was its excitement. It's a curtain raiser, right, for the Melbourne Cup, but maybe something a little bit, all group racing is still an amazing day out, but maybe just a little something to...
I think the cliche is to say the real winner's racing fans, right? Because it doesn't matter which state you're in, but there's always going to be a good race to watch. And we won't let you get away without giving us a cut. You're going to steer us into winners later in the show, surely, for those of us mug punchers. That's the
easiest race to tip at the year.
The Melbourne Cup. Everyone always picks the winner. Princess Anne, that was the favourite, surely. We will move on, though, because we're going to talk about the Ashes, but not racing now, because we've got the form guide on the table, which means that I want to see a winner coming our way from the Cup. And we are going to highlight, first and foremost, the Caulfield Cup, because both Claire and Quentin have decided to highlight that as form races. And Quentin, you've gone with the winner to go back to back.
Well, the Caulfield Cup is the time-honoured form reference for the Melbourne Cup. And it is such a hard form race to line up. And I have got half yours on top here. Royal Supremacy also ran very well in the Caulfield Cup, and Buckaroo's also been through one of the time-honoured form races in the Cox Plate. But look, I was chatting to Claire yesterday, and we were lucky enough while presenting Grandstand from Flemington, we spoke to Tony McAvoy, the trainer. We spoke to Jamie Melham after the day's racing yesterday, and we're actually going to play that interview on radio a little bit later on today. So among all the information that's out there, Claire, I'm going with the fact that at least we've spoken to the trainer and jockey of the favourite, and they're both happy with the horse and happy if that Melbourne rain comes, the more the mud, the more the merrier for half yours.
Well, let's have a look at that Caulfield Cup, and we are highlighting half yours there, which is Australian trained and Australian bred. And you mentioned Jamie Melham being in the saddle. This is the first ever female jockey to win the Caulfield Cup, and if she does it, she'll join Michelle Payne being the second female jockey to win the Melbourne Cup. So what a story that would be. But it is just that question of how much do you take into account the fact it's meant to be bucketing down? Do you look at the form lines and just go, right, what do we know performs in the wet?
Absolutely, it does come into it, certainly. The top weight that is in there, Al Riffa, supposedly likes the wet, but it's got to carry 59 kilos. That's one of the reasons why I've gone with Valiant King as my tip, because it's actually got 51 kilos. And when you're thinking 3,200 metres on a wet track, you've got to look at those type of things as well. I've also gone Chris Waller trained, of course, as well.
So you mentioned Valiant King. We just saw Valiant King run, but it didn't win. Ran third. What did you see
the last
in that
200 metres he's come home really, really well, and it's probably just a little bit more seasoned than half yours. A little bit older.
There he is coming through.
Had a little bit of a checkered path as well coming through, and I've also thrown in one of the internationals. So there's 11 international horses in the Melbourne Cup this year. Arguably, we've got probably another great name in racing here. We've got a jockey called Thor Hammer Hansen riding this week.
Stunning. Thor Hammer Hansen is
from
his
Germany.
Genuine name.
That's right. So we've got some really
Fantastic.
great internationals that are coming out. We've got an American horse that's contesting in the race for the first time ever. But yeah, it'd be great to see some Australian still win the race and fly the flag. And I'd love nothing more to see Jamie Mellon win the Melbourne Cup as well.
You mentioned that the Melbourne Cup's always been known for international raiders coming in and breeders targeting it as well, because traditionally Australians breed sprinters, not so much these staying types. But it is great that we've seen the tighter vet laws that have been brought in order to try to make these races safer for the horses and for all involved. And yet we are still seeing those international connections come over. I
certainly think it's like any regulation change. It was a little bit of a shock for some of the internationals, particularly because of the quarantine rules and how stringent testing are to come across. But with 11 horses coming across this year, we're seeing everyone accepting the rules. Even our local horses, we've had it. Gay Waterhouse's horses famously didn't pass the vet this year. We'll probably see it try again next year.
And this is Al Riffa, who's one of the favourites of the internationals.
Yeah, so I think that everyone's accepting the rules. Obviously, sport and the horses come first, and we're really proud of that. We probably don't tell enough stories of how much we do looking after the horses.
Yes.
As far as the aftercare and the pre-care and all that kind of vet checks that go into it.
We do highlight, though, this is one of the hardest races. I love that anytime Melbourne Cup comes around, I'm like, righto, both of you, find us a winner, please. But it is one of those ones that if you are going to go wide in the field and just because you like a name, this seems to be one of the best races to do.
It's a handicap, right? So that's the whole point. But if we start from barriers in an equal like a running line, but we're having that basically staggered start with the weights. International horses are coming across. Australian horses never raced over 2 miles before. It really throws into the mix.
Which is why, when asked to make a tip, you stick to the standard of Caulfield Cup and Cox Plate as well. And that's why Buckaroo, who we can see here.
You're mentioning the Cox Plate, which was won by VRC Melbourne, not by the enormous lengths that it did the previous year, but it's a stablemate Buckaroo that you want to highlight here. Again, another Waller-trained horse that you think might feature pretty prominently.
And Craig Williams has got the ride. And
he knows how to win a cup.
He goes all right, doesn't he? This horse has got 2.5 more kilos than last year when it ran on well and finished in the top 10. But the Waller quality, and I think because we have 11 internationals and it's so hard to try and weigh up that form. I mean, Al Riffa in the Irish St Ledger, we know that that's a good form guide for the Melbourne Cup.
Worth noting that Mark Zara is aboard Al Riffa. He's in okay form as well.
Exactly.
It's just something worth noting.
But you've got to pick a couple, and I just think the fact that Craig Williams has taken this ride, you know, Claire, he's very good. He's very judicious about picking the right ride for the right horse in the right race. And when you've got the polish of Waller and the experience of Williams, even though he's up in the weights, I'm going with that Cox Plate guide holding up on Melbourne Cup Day again, even though this year's Cox Plate might not have been as deep as some others.
Oh, well, you can't go wrong when you're looking at that sort of races and all these interesting form lines coming together. And I think, you know, it's the barrier draw probably didn't really come as throw out anything really obvious last night as well. I think Harfields has drawn well. I think Jamie was happy with 8. So, and Al Riffa's got to overcome some of the wider barriers. You never know what's going to happen.
You do never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen when Brack gives you tips, either, because we are going to have a look at what you think might be featuring. And please talk us through your rationale here of how you got to some of your tips, because we're going to have a look now. I love this. I wish we had somehow made you the graphic as the jockey. That would have been great. But can you tell us?
The winner's a giveaway. We know why you've picked that.
Yeah, you know, of course.
You've got an omen bet of one smooth operator.
Yeah, no, I mean, look at me. Like, you know, I think I could relate with one smooth operator very much. Not so much with Goody Two Shoes, though I like the colour clash with Goody Two Shoes. Flatten the Curve, good name, strong name, but I do like that beautiful combination of blue and red. Like, and I'm so excited by the fact that my picks don't come anywhere close to the experts' pick. So what that means is go with mine.
Well, you do think through history you've got Prince of Panzan. There's winners that came from absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
So you
names, colours, that's what we're going for.
That's the beauty of it.
That's who's Thor Hammer Hansen's riding, Flatten the Curve.
Oh, there you go.
Perfect. we love a good name. Team, we love those observations. We'll leave your tips as observations, but we do want to take...
Edge taken. Daniels for Carew. Pulls on.
That is unbelievable. The Brisbane Lions bludgeon their way to back-to-back.
Well, this match is coming alive.
It's observation here, because I'd like to shout out to Quentin Hull, who picked the winner of the Melbourne Cup on last week's show, and what a win it was for Jamie Mellum on Half Yours. She became the second woman after Michelle Payne to ride the Melbourne Cup winner, and she rode past her husband Ben to do it. She also won the Caulfield Cup the week before, being the first woman to win the double. But these are just amazing scenes, really, Ellie, for women's sport.
Yeah, I mean, the second woman in history of the Melbourne Cup to have won it. I mean, what a performance. And riding past your husband, no less. I mean, what an amazing performance. And I mean, it was really touching scenes, as we can see there, between Jamie and Michelle Payne. Those two incredible women for racing. I mean, what a performance that was. And what a series, I mean, Jamie's had it so far.
And I'll give you...
Hello, my name's Nat. Let's see what's making news. Today is the first Tuesday of November, which means it's Melbourne Cup Day. Justina took a look at the race, the fashion, and even the controversy.
And they're off. As soon as the gates opened at Flemington Racecourse, the race was on. Well, to get a good seat at least. And despite a bit of soggy weather...
It's a beautiful, well, it's a nice day.
The day was full of glitz and glamour.
My car's yellow, everything is yellow. I love it. So this worked out really good for today.
But the big day is all about the horses, of course, and which lucky jockey will ride home with the $10 million prize. This year, star jockey Jamie Mellum's horse, Half Yours, was one of the favourites to win. Mostly because Jamie made history earlier this year, becoming the first female jockey to win the Caulfield Cup.
There is no excuse for animal abuse.
But not everyone says yup to the Cup. Over the years, public interest has slipped, with experts saying things like the promotion of unhealthy gambling habits and awareness around horse racing and animal cruelty are reasons why some people might be losing interest. But for many racegoers, the Cup is still a big deal.
Very keen. My first Cup, so very, very keen, yeah.
As for the race, Jamie Mellum made history again to become the first female jockey to win both the Melbourne and Caulfield Cups.
Nothing ever compares to this feeling right now I'm feeling.
The Liberal Party and the National Party, aka the